very structured, very analytical. If things didn't go according to plan, like I always had plan, I had my schedule, I had my calendar, everything. Like I was so analytical. And so when things didn't go to plan, I didn't know how to react. I literally just like
Mhm.
exploded. Like my whole world exploded because I was like, no, like this was the plan and it was supposed to go like this. And like, now what am I supposed to do? I can't control this. And so when that losing that sense of control over a situation is, it was intense.
Welcome to part 2 with Melissa. In part 1, she shared with us her cancer journey. And so if you guys haven't listened to that, I definitely recommend you go there. We also recorded a podcast episode on her podcast, so it gives you even more context into her story. But today we thought it would be fun and maybe interesting to talk about this concept of you are the creator of your own reality. Before we get into that, hola Melissa, ¿cómo estás? Thank you for coming back for part 2.
Yes, so excited to be here.
Prior to this, we were talking and I was telling Melissa, I just feel like this is something that probably like I'm still learning about, you're still learning about it, you know, because it's like an ongoing thing of recognizing what does that mean. Probably so many of us come into this knowing in such different ways. We might even resist that like thought. But in one of our conversations, you had said it so sure, like a knowing, like an integrated knowing within you of truth, that I was like, oof, I want to talk about it with you because I want to know, like, how does that become truth in someone, you know? Because not everyone believes that, or not everyone looks at life through that perspective. Do you remember when you thought of it and started to recognize it as truth in your life?
Oof. I think it was through a lot of the inner work that I started to notice just how the work that I did inwards reflected outwards.
Mm.
And typically that's how it is. On your awakening journey, you realize, oh my God, I'm the creator of my reality. But then it gets to a point where you realize, oh, I really am the creator of my reality. Because like there's a point where you understand it and then a point where it becomes truth, like you said.
When you know
And
it,
it
yeah.
comes to the point where you realize that it's a truth for you. And so you can't unsee it. And so you go
Mm.
about your life viewing everything in your exterior as a mirror.
Mm.
Everything, everyone, every place, every situation, everything, everything. Because for example, you won't attract certain people anymore. You won't attract certain energies anymore. You won't attract certain experiences anymore. All of these different things, because whether you want to look at it from like an energy point of view, you no longer like vibrate. You no longer vibe with those things. Versus,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at it from like a spiritual point of view, you just no longer align. And so that's really how I look at everything in my life now, as a mirror. And this is where it becomes a tool almost. Um, if there's something in your exterior that you don't like, it causes you an uncomfortable feeling. It brings something up for you that you're like, I don't like this about this person. Automatically detach from that and use that person, place, or thing as a mirror. Because whatever that person is shining light on, whatever they're reflecting back to you about you, is what you're not liking. If you see it in
Mm.
them, is because it exists within you in some aspect. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful once you understand that and you go on about life, seeing life that way, as everything is a mirror, because it
Yeah.
changes everything.
Mm. So interesting that you say it like with a mirror. I just started using the emoji of a mirror, like in my comments, in my even usernames, because I feel like I'm recognizing that part of my role is to be a mirror to people. And it's so interesting. Like, I will say, I think like a few years ago, I used to hear that like the world is a reflection of you. You know, everything you see in others exists within you. And it's actually taken me a long time. And I think I'm still learning of like, what does that even actually mean? So thank you for sharing too, that it's like a combination of what you've been through that lets you know this, because when I would hear people say it like as such truth, I was like, well, maybe through plant medicine or maybe through I don't know, like a reading, someone told it to them and they were like, oh, that's reality. But I do think similarly, like you said, it's like when you first awaken, maybe for me, like you start awakening because you want to manifest things, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
book, I remember when I was in graduating college, I read the book The Secret, I think, or in high school. And so then like awakening, it's like, ooh, how do I manifest this life and create this life that I want? But in the process of that, like you said, then there's like this other awakening of like, whoa, no, like I don't just create opportunities for myself, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
also create challenges, triggers, patterns, and that's a trip. Like to start
Yes.
to be able to pinpoint that out in your reality. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, and I'll take this a step further. You get to a point where you understand your role in being a co-creator with the universe. Because yes, you are one with the universe, but you're co-creating with it. And so this is how manifestation works. You are vibrating this, and so you are naturally going to attract things, but it's not you bringing these things towards you, it's the universe, it's everything else. And so this is where the part of doing the inner work comes in, because when you do it, it's automatically reflected outwards. When you do the inner work, the universe will co-create with you and bring the opportunities, the money, the everything that you desire will the universe will bring it to you. But that's why, because you're co-creating with it and you understand your role as a co-creator. You understand that your thoughts are quite literally the ones that are co-creating. And so what's going on up here is what you're going to see in your 3D reality.
And even sometimes like not just what you think but what you feel, and that's when like when you get blocked from what you're wanting, it's because there's something else there. So it's like you could be like, but I've been thinking I want this car, I want this car, I want this car, but maybe like emotionally, let's say you relate that car to rich people and rich people are bad and you have all of these emotions around it. Like when something comes, it gives you information. When something doesn't, it
Mhm.
also gives you information of what within you is in or out of alignment with your desires, right? Something like
Yes. And that is also, again, a reflection. If you're not attracting what it is that you're desiring, and you can think about it 50 times a day, I want this, I want this. But if you're not doing any of the inner work, it doesn't matter how many times you think it, you're not attracting it because you're not vibing there. You
that.
haven't done any of the
Mm-hmm.
work as the co creator. And
Right.
yeah, I also like and I use this. You use the mirror emoji. I use I'm not sure if you've heard it, the student teacher. We all are students and we all are teachers, because through our life experiences, who we are today, we are teachers to people who are going through the thing that we have already mastered in ourselves. And so in that way, we are teachers, but we are always, always students, because we're always learning from our environment, from our those around us. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
what I love, is the student teacher, because we all are students and teachers.
That reminds me of the infinity symbol, which was one that I was using a lot. Like maybe I've since like 6 months ago, I tell people like one to ones or in my lives, I mentioned like when you give, you receive. So it's like this like reciprocal relationship with everything and everyone.
Yes.
So cool. Yeah, everyone is a teacher and a student. I love that you're bringing that up too, because I think that when you're awakening, when you're healing, when you learn something, sometimes you do feel like, oh well, I've learned them and learned this, but look at them, they haven't. When like I like let's
Mm-hmm.
say I wish that they would understand and that they would know all these things that I now know and embody, but remembering that everyone can be a teacher is so cool, because then it takes you away from that pedestal that you're kind of trying to hop on constantly.
And then also the fact that, like, when we get to a point of our healing where we feel like we know enough to be the savior, and that's why the term the savior complex exists, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
we feel like we see all the defaults in the people around us, and they're like, ooh, they got to fix that, they got to heal that. And like, you see it because it's much easier, you're on the exterior, but it's the same thing. It goes back to that student teacher. You're always a student and a teacher, because just how you're able to notice that in them, that means it exists within you in some aspect of your life. If you can see
Mm-hmm.
it in them, it exists in you. And so Yeah, if there's something that you take from this talk today, is that use everything as a mirror, and understanding that if you see it out there is because it exists in here. And when you do the work in here and you change whatever is in here, you will no longer see it out here like magic.
I'm wondering if we could ground that a little bit to like a specific example. If you can think of an example, um, I'll share one that I think is simple. Let's say that you're out in a public place and someone is laughing really loud. And for some reason, it's like triggering you. It's like, ugh, it's causing something within you, right? So, using the everything is a mirror, when you think of your childhood, can you think of if you were able to express yourself loudly? And the majority of people are like, no, like my emotions had to be contained, my even my
Mhm.
joy had to be contained
Mhm.
sometimes. Like for example, for me, you know, growing up, I felt like if there was family that we were hosting and I laughed too loud, either of my parents would be like, Priscila, ven ayudarnos a hacer esto. And so it was kind of like when they noticed I was having fun, I was called in, you know, I was summoned.
Yes, like, oh, you got free time to be laughing? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're happy, having fun, vente pa acá. And so and so
Yeah.
now I like for me it's like, oh, it's triggering me because
Yeah.
I've had to suppress my joy,
Mhm.
and this person fully expressing themselves makes me think of what I experienced, you know, like subconsciously. It wasn't conscious
Yeah.
until I made it conscious.
Yes.
So that's like a simple example, right, of how like your triggers are information, because it's like that led me down this little trail of like recognizing, oh, this is why this is a trigger
Yes.
for me. So I'm wondering if like there's an example that comes to mind for you of like, what does it mean everything is a mirror and kind of the outside reflects the inside?
Yes, I will tie it into self concept. When you do self concept work, and I've seen it in myself and my reality, and it's been crazy. So, when you do self concept work, you go into the beliefs that you have about yourself. If you are running on programmings that say, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve nice things, I don't deserve experiences, I don't deserve surprises, etc., the I don't deserve, you will live a life, a day to day, in which you will see evidence of this. You will get
Mm.
rejected from jobs, you get rejected from relationships, from friendships. Doors will be shut in your face, right? And as soon as you switch those programmings to I am magnetic, I am worthy, I am powerful, I'm influential, your reality will start to reflect that because that's how it works. And you will see it. You will go to the grocery store and you'll get random compliments. You will get random opportunities. I've gotten free stuff quite literally just coming to you, and you don't even have to ask for them.
Mm.
And so I think that's my example is the self-concept work because I personally have
Hmm.
seen it.
I love that because when I started to see that, I was in Tennessee with my sister. I had a lot of alone time and I had no friends around. It was pandemic time. So, like, in fact, we had to stay indoors because we couldn't get sick because didn't want to
Oh,
get my
yeah.
sister sick. And so I did a lot of journaling, a lot of like inner work. And it's interesting porque I wasn't doing it with the lens of manifesting or the lens of the outside.
Mhm.
I just knew there was a lot that I needed to work inward, and I was also going through it. So I was like trying to get myself back to base level. But in all of that, there were affirmations, and I changed the music that I would listen to. So I
Mhm.
changed from like hip hop, reggaeton, just whatever I used to listen to back in the day, to more mindful music that's like I am worthy, I am love, I am etc. Like, and I think I would also do affirmations of like I attract opportunities, I love myself, and I was really working on that. And what happened is I que decir que I would go get coffee in the drive-through, and then they would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, like we forgot to give the car in front of you this coffee. Like, would you want it?" Yeah, no
Mhm.
problem. And then, or my car would break down. I remember I had like, it wouldn't turn on, and I was like, oh my gosh, and like I don't have a lot of money right now, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go get it fixed. And then I like went to the a mechanic that I found, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't like look at this until this other date. And I was like, oh no, like, okay. And he just like saw me, like, I guess be like sad, you know, and he was like, why, what's going on? I'm like, oh, it's because I was supposed to do this and blah blah blah. He's like, okay, let me like fit you in. And then he's like, do you have a ride back home? I was like, no, I was gonna walk back home, you know, because I was in the
Yes.
middle of in the country. Donde no había tantos Ubers or anything like that, you know? So I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna walk. And he's like, no, I don't want you to walk. First of all, he gave me a ride to the gym. Then he's like, I'll pick you up once you're done working out. And I was like, okay. And so then he called me. He's like, your car is fixed. And he's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Like it's on us, you know? You know, and he's like, I pumped a little bit of gas because I don't know, just like beautiful things were happening to me. And I was
Yes.
just like, whoa, like,
Yes.
and I wasn't doing it for those purposes, but I did feel like you know, when they say the word alignment, I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I was in alignment. Like I was starting to line up to some sort of something where like
Yeah.
really nice things were happening. And yeah, it was really cool, but it was
Yes.
not something I expected.
Yes, 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 exactly that. And like you said, whether you do it consciously or not, like you may have never even heard the concept of yeah, the self concept. But unconsciously, maybe you were already doing it, working on those programmings or beliefs about yourself. And you saw, like you said, the results in your 3D reality, and you're like, okay, hold up. Like, I've never gotten free stuff before. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to give me free stuff. Yeah, like it's crazy how quickly it happens too.
Hmm. And you know, something I thought about is that sometimes, like in this work, you're learning how to set boundaries.
Mhm.
And I think that something worth talking about too is like how important energetics are and like the energy behind what you're doing. So, for example, what I have found is that sometimes when someone sets a boundary, they're shaky on the boundary. So, let's say it has to do with
Mhm.
their time. So, like, someone is always needing them and always has emergencies, and like you as a giver, lover, etc., you're always like there for the
Mhm.
person. So when you try to set a boundary, what I've noticed is like most of the people that I get to work with don't actually respect their own time and their own energy.
Mm,
Um, they don't see it as important, which is why they so easily give it away, you know?
yes.
And so when they set a boundary, it typically doesn't work well porque it's like they're saying it and already doubting it, you know, because they don't believe that their time is important. So like they might
Mhm.
be like, hey, you know, I can't always help you right away. And it's like the energy behind it is so shaky because they're the first ones to put any to-do list of their own down to go help someone else.
Yeah.
And when I start to have them do 10 minutes consistently every day for themselves, they start to pay more attention to like where is their energy going, how are they using their
Mhm.
time, and they start to prioritize something for them. So the energetics behind how they feel about their time starts to change, and so does how more easily they're able to respect their time in front of
It's
others.
interesting because, and I'm saying this personally because this was some of my work as well. There's this level of codependency that we are kind of blind to when we feel that if the codependency comes in where we feel that I show up for you in more ways than I show up for myself, which means you will never leave me. You will always need me
Mm,
to show up for you in this way, so you won't leave me. And that's a codependency that we are often blinded to when we show up for others in more ways than we show up for ourselves. It really boils down to a
mm,
codependency. And
mhm,
it's reprogramming the way that you think about relationships. For you to be able to show up healthily into a relationship of any kind, you have to be whole within yourself. And if you are showing up not whole, as in not showing up for yourself more than you show up for others, you can't be in that because there's a codependency there.
Yeah. It's like there's a void within me that I'm hoping that you fill. And since I don't know how to fill it, I want to make sure you're always around. So let me self abandon and always prioritize you.
Yep.
It's so crazy, right? How that works.
Yep. You manipulate your way to thinking in this way, like, no, like it's safe and it's healthy if I show up for them in this way, then they'll need me. They'll appreciate me more if I show up for them more than I show up for myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was like such a trip when I started to recognize that people pleasing is a form of manipulation in a sense. Because typically, people pleasers, when they start to awaken and heal, maybe we start to recognize like narcissistic traits in others. But
Mhm.
it's so interesting when you start to realize that people pleasing, kind of tying all of this together, is a form of trying to control someone else's action or loyalty or what
Yeah.
they perceive of you. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just think it's such a crazy way of looking at things porque antes it was like, oh, they're not being a good friend, they're not doing this, they're not,
Mhm.
but when you see what role are you playing in this, because we started
Yes.
off with like we're the creators of our own life and our own experiences, right? So like when you recognize you've been playing a role in this dynamic, it's like,
Yep.
whoa, okay, it's not just them.
It's like you're no longer inside the bottle, you're outside, so you can see the color of the bottle, what's in the bottle, everything. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And you start to recognize like the way that other people perceive your relationships are different because they have a different void that they're filling. I've had the opportunity to work with someone on the other end of a spectrum. So, for example, for some of us, it's like I always like to be needed because that makes me feel important. It makes me feel loved. That's how I relate. I help.
Mhm.
I've gotten the opportunity to work with the other side of the spectrum where it's like, I don't know how to relate to others, but by needing their help, by asking for help.
Mm.
That's how I feel loved. That's how I feel like I'm meeting someone halfway. And so, like, they're willing to give, so I'm willing to receive. And that's my form of
Mm.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And both of them, in some way, are taking you away from your power. Both of them, in some way, are taking away from you because for her, she so deeply wanted to be confident. But every time she, like, maybe had an original idea or thought or wanted something, she was willing to, like, set it to the side and ask for an
Sacrifice.
opinion to
Mhm.
let someone in. It was a sacrifice. There you go. And then
Yeah.
the people pleaser was like, I'm here for you. I got you. Even though I have needs, I'm not going to share them. I'm here. Another form of sacrifice.
Yep.
That entanglement and
Yeah.
enmeshment. So yeah, that's a little bit more about like maybe the ways that we create our own patterns and the parts of our lives that are not maybe talked about as much. Cause like I think manifestation and being the creator of your life is more like money, opportunities, homes, cars, even love, let's say, but it's like
Mhm.
the moreness of things. What's more tangible. And I think these are the parts where we don't fully see them as we're trying to access the moreness of life, right? Like these
Yeah.
are the parts where it's like there's also light shed on them when you're trying to create a more abundant life or a more aligned life. Como que no te la esperas que eso está
Mhm.
ahí también. Have you found too that in the pursuit of manifesting something like or creating your reality, you end up creating something that you didn't think was going to be that way? So, like for example, I remember saying I want to get paid to exist. Like I want to be able to not work a 9 to 5 and just be
Mhm.
myself and that be enough.
Mhm.
But what has happened is that I've now unlocked like intuitive abilities or like kind of opened those up more. And I'm recognizing that what that's meaning for me is like trusting in my own intuition, which is not tangible. It doesn't come from a book, it doesn't come from
Mhm.
anywhere but me. And I'm like, oh my God, no, this is too scary. They're like, this is too much to be able to rely fully
Yeah.
on quien sabe, like my inner knowing. It has been a block for me, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like I asked for it And I was like, but I wasn't expecting it in that way. And now I'm realizing this is the way that I get to live for being myself. But that means I have to fully trust in myself to be my income and like my livelihood, you know?
Yeah, for me, I feel like I relate because of my whole awakening journey in the cancer healing, right? That was me like getting thrown into this complete shift in how I guess I approach my purpose, right? And
Mm,
like you said, like what you do, like after my whole awakening and everything, I don't think that I could go back to working a job as we consider a job on earth.
yeah.
Because I have been like shown glimpses of my purpose here, and my purpose is not sitting in an office. My purpose is so much deeper than, being in a lab.
Hmm.
um that has, I guess, unintentionally opened the doors for my path. Like, I have let go of the need to control the route and the speed of my path. I
Mm-hmm.
understand, and I trust fully in that everything is happening for me because I've seen evidence of it. Like, I quite literally, was able to heal myself. And so because I've lived that experience, I fully understand now that you are the creator of reality and the universe is co-creating with you at the same time. And so if you just let go of that need to control, which was something huge for me, like I say it like it was easy, but it was not. It was one of the hardest things for me to do because my whole life, siempre en control, like I need to know what I'm doing next Monday, what I'm doing at 5 today, like very structured, very analytical. If things didn't go according to plan, like I always had plan, I had my schedule, I had my calendar, everything. Like I was so analytical. And so when things didn't go to plan, I didn't know how to react. I literally just like
Hmm.
exploded. Like my whole world exploded because I was like, no, like this was the plan and it was supposed to go like this. And like, now what am I supposed to do? I can't control this. And so when that losing that sense of control over a situation it was intense. And
Yeah.
so now it's crazy because it's like a complete shift. I have completely let go. I understand that everything is working out for me, because I've seen evidence of it. I truly believe it. And I've seen evidence of it since I finished my healing. Like everything has fallen right here, on a
Wow.
platter. It just comes to me and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And so like one of them was learning to read the Akashic records. I'm excited because I plan to use the Akashic in coaching. So it'll be like a blend of using the
Mm.
Akashic to provide coaching, because
Hmm.
that is ultimately something that was super foundational to me in my healing journey. I had people that read the Akashic, and like that was literally what gave me a skeleton in my healing journey. Like it gave me like a skeleton path. And
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
was really interesting how that happened. And like I plan to talk about it more. But yeah, the Akashic is amazing and it gives you a skeleton to your path, to what you're doing. And so, yeah.
Yee! Okay. So for those people that don't know what the Akashic record is or what they are, my understanding is that it's kind of like in the ethers exists a
Mhm.
record of everything that has ever happened and will ever happen,
Yes.
like
And
past, future,
because
present.
And because everything is happening right now, past, present, and future, there's only an eternal present. Everything there is, yes, you can tap into what the human mind considers as past or future.
Wow. So interesting. Yeah. Okay. And so then this is kind of come up for you because of this shuffle that has happened literally, right? It's so
Yes.
cool. It's like so interesting. You started off this episode with that too, where it's like you're co-creating, right? So
Hmm.
there's a surrender and an active part to it. I think that sometimes when people talk about manifestation, it's like assume it happened and it's done. And like there's nothing you have to do. And that can be so confusing because it's like, well, what do I just sit in my room every day for like a year and or when however long, and then a house is gonna just move its way here, right? But I think that those of us doing the work, there's a recognition of like there has to be aligned action tied to it. You know, it's like you give and you receive. It's kind of like you put one step forward and then the next thing is presented, and then you keep walking the path.
If you're interested in this whole like understanding, you're co-creating, and you do get to a point which, like you said, that is the key to manifesting, to saying I want this and it's done. But it takes a lot for you to get there to truly believe it, and it takes a lot of personal work to get there and to understand that yes, it is that easy. Like you can quite literally get to the point where you're like I want this, and it just, but it
Mm,
does take a lot of work. And I just read this and it's amazing. And if you don't know who Ivan Donaldson is, I highly
mm.
recommend.
Okay.
So yes, this book talks about everything that we basically talked about today, and
Really? What is it
more.
called? Just for those that are listening and not watching?
And I think it's
La
only in Spanish
Senda?
too. So La
Okay.
Senda del Multiverso.
Okay.
Yes.
By
And his
Ivan
music
Donaldson.
and meditations are also, I really recommend. They're great.
Ooh, okay.
My spiritual tia put me on.
Nice. Okay, okay. Yay,
Yes.
I'm excited. I want to read that book. Because
Yes.
yeah, I feel like there's so much we only got like 30-ish minutes to talk about this. There's probably so much more to talk about, right? Like when it comes to creating your own reality. But hopefully we at least kind of expanded a little bit and grounded it a little bit for people who are just starting to be on this path or maybe are creating their own interpretation. Like I think everyone funnels it through their system and it takes different things shifting in order for it to
Yes.
feel like truth, and sometimes like for some people it's like different experiences, for others it's different realizations or conversations. So it's
Uh-huh.
super cool that we're kind of playing a role in that in one way or another.
Yes.
um so before kind of like finishing off this episode, I do want to ask you for resources or things that kind of were helpful for you, just for anyone that's listening and is like, oh, I want to know like a book that she read, right? A song that she listened to. So I'm going to
Yes.
ask you a few of those
Well, that book,
questions.
I already told y'all. That one, I
Mm-hmm.
just finished it, and it's it's one of the thinnest books that I've probably read in a long time, but it is so dense that I had to read like section by section by section because it's so good, but it's like you have to read and then you got to sit back and like reflect because you're like,
Mm.
damn.
And with you having all of this that you just went through, I can't imagine. It's like, just grounding
Yeah,
everything for you.
it just
Woo.
like a lot of it clicked because it's interesting because his like what he talks about here is like his journey, his he talks about his first ayahuasca experience and everything. So, and it's interesting
Mm.
because like his ayahuasca experience, like it was very similar to mine, like how he experienced it and what he lived and how it changed his life so crazily. And the book basically takes you through his journey with one of his teachers, and all of the stuff that he learned from him. And it's really good. Um,
Wow.
if I do recommend like a practice, I would say keep a
Mm-hmm.
dream journal. That's been something that I've been doing probably for a couple years. Before that, I was like, what's the point? And I never did it. But I've done it for, like I said, a couple years, and it's been one of the most transformational things for me.
Wow.
If you dream, I know that not everybody dreams, but if you dream, definitely keep one, because your dreams are quite literally there's symbolism from your subconscious mind. And so
Mm.
it's gotten to the point where I would say like probably every night, I am like astral projecting, like if you know what astral projecting is, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing it like on a nightly basis. And they're basically very vivid dreams where you know that you're dreaming. And it's gotten to the point where I can decipher what it is that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming. It's crazy.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
like I understand what's going on in the dream and what it's trying to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And it's crazy because you can, I mean, when you write it down, you have it, and so like keep it the first thing that you do when you wake up instead of grabbing your phone, write down your dreams. Because even if you don't understand it, when you wake up and you're like, I dreamt that I was like flying through, I don't know, the sky or something. Like, and like the things that you dreamt don't make sense in that moment when you wake up, they will at some point because it's symbolism. And so like something out of there will click for you the next day or a week from now. It's crazy. And yeah.
Wow. So cool. Ooh, okay. So start a dream journal. What about
Yes.
a habit that you do for yourself every day?
Oh, I start my days meditating and grounding. So the first thing I do is go outside and I ground and I meditate. And then because I've been taking the Akashic Records course, I will like after
Mhm.
that I will open my Akashic Records and just channel for a bit.
That's so cool. I have always said that I feel like Akashic Records is something I'm going to end up doing too. So that's so cool
Yes.
that you're like currently practicing it.
Yes, I'm
Um,
taking the course with he did my Akashic record a few sessions now. He's in Mexico, but the course is remote. So like if, you're interested in his, I can definitely give you his
yes.
info and stuff. But yeah, it's good. I resonate with him and like how his readings were. So whenever he offered the course, I was like, yes, I'm taking it from you. Because yeah, there's a lot of people giving, Akashic Records courses, but if you don't resonate with the teacher or if you don't resonate with them, I mean, you're only going to grasp as much as you resonate with. And so if you don't resonate with the
Right.
person teaching it, like, so
Yeah.
that's definitely something like if you're interested or anybody listening, like definitely resonate with the teacher that you're going to be learning from.
So good movie that you like to watch or
Oh,
powerful movie.
I Origins. I don't know if you've watched it, but I Origins is a good there's a lot of spiritual meaning in it too. So, you know how people say the eyes are the windows to the soul or something like that?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, that's basically what the gist of it
The
is.
premise. Ah,
Yes.
how exciting. Okay. Woo! Well, thank you so much for this part 2 and for delving into this topic, which again is like we could have gone so many different directions. I think this was just like a mini intro, but I think it's like such a cool one, and now that the listeners have heard your story, and so like they have that background, knowing kind of um, that your knowledge and what you're sharing also comes from like you've like una esponjita, you've taken from shamans, from healers, from
Yes.
all kinds of knowledge, from books, and your own experience. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And if you guys are interested in hearing more from Melissa, you can check out her socials in the link in the description. You can check out her podcast. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We hope that you found this helpful in one way or another. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I feel like we're talking about super interesting different topics now on this podcast, and I'm so happy and proud about it. And it's so cool cuz like, just to kind of wrap up this topic too, it's like when you change, when you are open to different things, the things that you
Mhm.
attract change. And I hope you guys kind of see it if you've been listening to the podcast for a while. I feel like it's been this alignment that's constantly happening with the guests, with the topics and stuff like that. So it's super, super cool that even the podcast gets to be like proof of that, and that has been amazing as well.
Yes. I mean, even the alignment of us working together, like
Yes, exactly. Yay! Okay, pues, cuídense. Bye.